Ladies and gentlemen, Elite Heat is back. And there's a lot going on this week. When is there not, pal? But this week especially, I just want to start it off. Before we even introduce Kevin, say hello to Kevin. I want to say this, Kevin. What the world is talking about,
Yep.
globe to globe. We're not doing around the world yet, but what the world's talking about, I can tell you right now, is what happened a mere few days ago from this recording. Our favorite wrestler of all time, well, some people's, Terry Hulk Hogan Bollea, ripped his shirt off at the RNC, pal, the Republican National Convention. Unbelievable. That's the biggest thing that's happened in politics the last week, pal. What are your thoughts?
That's also the biggest thing that's happened in pro wrestling. But let's just be real. Hulk Hogan showing up at the Republican National Convention. I mean, is there a bigger story in wrestling right now? No, there's not. That's why we're leading off this podcast talking about this. Whether you love it or hate it, whatever your political stance is, that's not really what we're here to talk about. This is wrestling centric. We're not a politics podcast, pal.
Yes.
For me as a wrestling fan, I'm watching Hulk Hogan hype up Donald Trump. He basically did the intro, if I'm not mistaken, for Donald Trump before Trump spoke at this convention. And he's hulking up. He's doing the "what you gonna do when Trumpomania runs wild on you, brother," taking off his shirt. And I'm just like, one, this is like bizarre. Like, am I in what simulation am I in? Did I get thrown into like another timeline? Like, it just seems egregious to have a wrestler like introducing the president of the United States at a convention or any kind of like rally or anything. And then two, I'm like, this is pretty cool. Like, say what you want about Hulk Hogan, say what you want about Donald Trump, say what you want about Republicans. I don't really care. But looking at like this from the standpoint of like, this is a wrestler involved in politics and it's Hulk freaking Hogan, bro. Like, it's cool, you know? And it's, I'm trying to be very careful with what I say here, but bro, this is a big time news story. Like, it just is.
Yeah.
We're in a wrestling week where what's the other biggest story? MJF and Will Ospreay had a 60-minute Iron Man match that was pretty good on AEW Dynamite TV. Like, that's our other big news story. Oh, the Motor City Machine Guns signed with WWE, pal. That's a big story. But that's only a big story because of how popular WWE is right now. If the Motor City Machine Guns signed 5 years ago, nobody would be talking about that. But let's just keep it a buck, So what did you think when you're watching this? Like, you're a non-American, so yeah. I'm just curious. I want to know your perspective as a non-American. You're watching a pro wrestler be like the guy that stole the show at this big political convention.
Look, it's because it's Hogan. It's really weird. Because this is the same Hulk Hogan who, you were at WrestleMania 37 when Hulk Hogan co-hosted with Titus O'Neil and they walked out with pirate hats and everyone was booing. You were there for that. Like, Hogan's a strange
Can I say this too? Let me say this. When they had Hogan talking at the Royal Rumble in St. Petersburg, like, "Oh, brother, I'm from the Tampa area. I got my career started at St. Petersburg," and everybody was booing him. Like, "Oh, this is Dusty Town, brother. I'm rooting for Cody." Everybody's booing him. It's so great. Go ahead.
Because in many realities, this is the greatest wrestler of all time, doing this big political rah-rah, big introduction for the bloke who most likely will be the next president. And it's this big situation. I'm watching this, from the other side of the world. I'm watching the introduction, pal. I'm like, what am I watching here? This is nuts. Because, yes, there have been some pretty big time, wrestlers in the mainstream, like, doing things. I remember at one of the UFC events, like a year or two ago, Big E was like the introduction person for the walkouts, or even for Fury and Wilder. Big E was like the introduction person for that. And you've had Cena hosting the ESPYs, pal, and stuff like that, and Cena naked at the Oscars, pal, this sort of stuff. There's been some notable things. Obviously, The Rock is involved in a bunch of stuff in like the mainstream. The XFL, sure. But considering what's been going on the last week or so, to have all the eyeballs of the world on this, what's going on, and we see Hulk Hogan, Terry Gene Bollea roaring, "What you gonna do, brother?" He's ripping his shirt off. When Republicans run wild on you, pal, and he's like roaring, ripping his top off. This is unbelievable. This is crazy. This is Hulk Hogan, who is without him, there isn't WrestleMania. If the WrestleMania 1 was just, Paul Orndorff versus Roddy Piper and Mr. T is the referee, there's not a WrestleMania 2. So, you look at that. This guy made wrestling, and unreal. So, yeah, pretty eventful, pal. The biggest event of the last week, pal. The biggest event in world, just everything the last week. Hulk Hogan rips his shirt off at a political convention.
Now, can we get a little raunchy, just a little raunchy here with this conversation? Can we steer it just a little bit to the left, pal? No pun intended when I say that, but what do you make of like this narrative, or I don't know if narrative's the right word, but this decision by a number of wrestling fans that, if a certain wrestler backs a certain political party in their real personal life, that then sheds a negative connotation on that person. We've seen this with The Undertaker and Kane. And now we're seeing
Jericho.
Jericho. Yep. Now we're seeing it with Hogan.
Yeah.
What do you make of that? Like, I think it's a little bit odd to just assume that somebody's a bad person because of their political affiliations. And I get it. There's some people on Twitter that are really like extreme on one side. Like I think the average person sees, oh, Hulk Hogan's a Republican. Okay, cool. Like that doesn't affect my life in any way, shape, or form. But you've got these people on the internet that are like, oh my God, Hulk Hogan evil, Undertaker evil, because they vote a certain way. Yeah. And I think just from an American standpoint, I think that kind of mindset is the problem right now. Instead of working together, these parties are more divided than ever. And if we're being real about it, it's because the media companies make more money by off of this division. So I mean, what do you make of that though? Just that whole annotation, that negative annotation around the political party affiliations.
Yeah, in short, I think it's stupid. I think it's dumb. Like a lot of the wrestlers, and when we did our top 50 list and we ranked them down, especially as you get towards the top 10, top 15, a lot of those wrestlers have like real personal life issues or things that have happened, like personally speaking, not even political related, but that can really like defer you, whether it's domestic stuff, whether it's sexual, whatever. Like, you know most of the stuff better than I do, but just things that are known about like the top 15, top 20 greatest of all time that have, ruined reputation, so to speak. We know that, but like this political stuff, I think it's stupid. Okay, The Undertaker thinks this way politically. I don't care. Most normal people don't care, as you say, and we're not going to try and make this out to be like, oh, everyone and their dog thinks because this ex-wrestler who was like a legend thinks this way politically, therefore they're like, this is like a very niche minority on Twitter, as you say, but the people who do that, I think it's strange. Who cares? Like, I know for the people who I know who watch wrestling, that all they do is send me Joe Hendry clips. Send me the latest raunchy segment with Liv and Dom. Send me, when Rhea Ripley comes back. OMG, look what CM Punk said. That's what the normal person thinks. The normal person isn't thinking, oh, what does the off-screen character playing that wrestler, do they vote red, pal? Do they vote blue? Do they vote RFK, pal? Are they more independent thinking? Like, no one's like that. That I know in real life. Obviously, there is this crowd who believe that. Chris Jericho has been the big one in recent years, particularly. It's been the cool thing to hang it on him because he didn't have masks at the concert, pal, or he thinks this, or where was your wife on January 6th, pal? Raquel Rodriguez, pal. Raquel Gonzalez. I was literally at the Elimination Chamber and some guy with like a neck beard who was about my age just yelled out, "Where were you on January 6th, Raquel?" I was just like our whole row turned, like, would you shut up? Like, get that rubbish political crap out. We're here to have fun. Shut up. We don't care what you have to say. So, yeah, I think generally speaking, people who think that, it's just like, it's not on. Just like cut it out. But it is the cool thing online. Oh, Jericho, votes red, pal. F him.
Yeah. And now I feel like we have to address the obvious, the elephant in the room with Hulk Hogan. Yeah, he has a past, per se. We'll just leave it at that. Hulk Hogan has a past, and yes, you mentioned like some of the top superstars have things around their personal life that make people look at him differently. Yeah, Hulk Hogan is probably the one that's been affected by that the most, and he brought it on himself. Yeah. And it was I could imagine it was heartbreaking for a lot of people, that grew up watching Hulk Hogan to find out what his real life like beliefs are about certain topics. I can only imagine. I mean, I was disappointed too, but you know, at the end of the day, you know, sometimes we have to separate art from real life. And I just look at Hulk Hogan, the character, what he did in the ring, you know, but behind the scenes, am I like a big Terry Bollea fan? Not necessarily. Like, I don't think he's, go ahead.
I was just going to, and just to sort out on that, wrestling's a weird gray area of a lot of things, right? And it depends who you talk to, their view. For instance, your Twitter for about a year or two was dedicated to posting old clips, posting things which were they're on WWE TV, most of them. But you watch like an isolated 1 minute thing where this wrestler says this, like someone like Kurt Angle said about Rey Mysterio, like, you know, on screen, reading his lines, or, you know, what Vince McMahon said backstage to X wrestler, or the segment where Shane McMahon and so whatever. And you watch that and go, oh my God, and like people can freak out and be like, oh my God, the person, oh my God, F this person, and really get overruled by that and get really freaked out when it's like, well, they're just reading a line, they're just an actor.
Right.
But the same thing goes with this. So some people can just very clearly, this is the on-screen stuff, this is off-screen, I don't care about off-screen, I care about on-screen. Whereas some people are like, oh my God, off-screen, this wrestler likes X, Y, and Z, their political affiliations, this, they did this, F them on screen, I don't like them anymore on screen. And it's like, well, can you separate the two? Like it's case to case with each wrestler, I feel, but for me, I try and separate it as much as I can. I don't really care what they do personally, generally speaking. It's just about what they do on screen for the most part. I'm not here to analyze personal lives. Most people who criticize and crucify personal lives and, you know, try and cancel people, most of them are hardly clean cut themselves. Most people have stuff they've said, stuff they've done, people they've blackmailed, all this sort of stuff, people they've bullied. No one's perfect with this stuff, but yeah, it's the space we live in, pal. I get it. I cut you off in your point about Hulk Hogan to say that, pal, so continue.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say Hulk Hogan, you know, it's not the most squeaky clean person from like a personal standpoint. Just aside from all the things about him that make people hate him, you know, he's not really a great businessman to do business with. Like I joked in my Rise and Fall of TNA video that Dixie Carter wanted to bring in somebody that could help elevate young talent, pal, and take TNA to the next level. She brought in Hulk Hogan, you know, so Hulk Hogan, I mean, you know, I have a ton of videos. I've done a ton of videos about this guy. He refused to put over Bret Hart at WrestleMania. I mean, at SummerSlam in '93, you know, screwed over Bret Hart and Yokozuna at WrestleMania 9, the Bash at the Beach stuff, like Sting using his political power against Sting, SummerSlam 05 with Shawn Michaels. Like, the guy is not like, he doesn't have a reputation of being like the nicest person overall. So I say all that, it feels like in 2024, Hulk Hogan was like the perfect celebrity for this RNC, for the Republican Party. Like it felt like a hand in glove fit. If we're just looking at it objectively, you know, like just being objective for a moment, it's like, I don't think they could have picked a better person, honestly, a better celebrity. I mean, Dana White was good too, you know, but Hulk Hogan was like that. I mean, for those people in that fan base, give it to him, bro.
And the other thing I was saying is this remember like 3 years ago, your infamous take, pal. You know, you're not going to see people nowadays, wrestlers nowadays, in mainstream songs, getting songs written about them. We could say the same thing here. Are we going to see wrestlers nowadays, like who from this current roster is going to be the one doing the political ambassadorial stuff, ripping their shirt off at the Democrat convention, the Republican convention?
John Cena.
I don't know. We'll see. Who's the next one in 12 years, pal? Do we have Sami Zayn, the 9-time Intercontinental Champion, 3-time WWE Champion, 2-time WrestleMania main eventer, introducing the Democrat nomination in 2020 or 2030, whatever? Who knows? Whatever. That being said,